Hey everybody, how's it going? It is 5 o'clock on a Friday. Yes, thank God. Welcome to the SpinSheet Happy Hour, brought to you by Mount Gay Rum. Big shout out to Mount Gay Rum. They are our sponsor now for the next 4 episodes of the SpinSheet Happy Hour, and we're really happy to have them. I'll talk a lot about what Mount Gay has going on right now in just a minute. But our topic today is on radio controlled boats. If you're hearing a feedback right now, I apologize. I'm going to try and fix that in a second. Anyhow, we're going to talk about radio controlled boats, and we're going to have a couple of guests. It's actually a really cool topic. I'm kind of into this. And have been since I was a wee lad, at least since I was a teenager. So, but these guys do serious sailboat racing. I never really did that, so I'm really interested to hear more about it. But before we get started, I got to take care of some business, and obviously that is to also thank some other sponsors we have. For this specific episode, we've got a sponsor who's Dragon Sailing. Now, Dragon Sailing sells the Dragon Flight 95 and the Dragon Force 65 radio control sailboats. This is pretty cool because not only are they sponsoring us, but these are some of the boats that they sell right down there. The 95 is a little over 37 inches and the 65 is 25 inches. They're both really affordable radio controlled boats. And if the DF95 sells for about $425 and the DF65 sells for $249. I got to tell you, I actually bought a boat years ago when I was a teenager, and it was about $400, and that was huge. So the prices have stayed relatively the same over. Let's just say it's well over 2 decades now since I bought my first boat. But anyway, big special thanks to Dragon Sailing for them sponsoring us. We really appreciate it. And we'll be talking more about radio control boats in general and all that. So let's just go there. And last but not least, has been a sponsor that we've had now for a little while. And that's going to be Boat Life. And if you don't know who Boat Life is, they're one of the oldest brands in boating out there. They're over 60 years old, and today they're our giveaway sponsor. During this whole thing, please ask as many questions as you want, and if we use your question, we will actually put you in a drawing, and you could win. Other way. A bottle of Bilge Cleaner. Come on. How cool is that, right? Bilge Cleaner. I can't think of a better gift. And listen, if you don't have a boat, if all you have is a remote control boat, I can't imagine a better gift to somebody than some Bilge Cleaner. So anyway, ask your questions, and at the end we'll announce the winner, and hopefully you can give somebody the gift that keeps on giving, Bilge Cleaner. All right, well, I'm going to bring Molly on here in a second, and we're going to do a little talk here. Hold on. Folks, if you knew what it takes for me to put this show together, you would be like amazed. Here comes Molly.
Hey.
Hey, Molly.
Happy SpinSheet friends. How's it going, Sharb?
Oh, it's going all right, man. I'm excited for this Friday. It's hot.
And there's a little storm cloud building in the sky. The big question around here, we were just discussing with the RC guys we have in the green room now. We are just discussing, is this storm really going to hit? I'm going to do that Annapolis bubble thing where, wait, I got to get this way. The Annapolis bubble thing where it nails Baltimore and, West River and south of there. And we in Annapolis are still sitting in the backyard drinking a Mount Gay drink.
And what all sailors are the same. It doesn't matter if you just sail radio controlled boats or actual boats you can get on. We all check the weather. Like that was the first thing we talked about.
Earlier, before we got on the air, I said to everybody, "Looks like a little storm is building," and everybody hopped right on. They're like, "Yeah, the line is there right now." We've all been watching it, and none of us are planning on sailing this evening. We just do that, right?
That's fun. Right. Well, before we get started, though, I mentioned earlier that I had a sailboat, a remote-controlled sailboat, and I will say this right now. Although been on a Sunfish and sailed some boats before, until I got that radio-controlled boat, and I had a little pond in my backyard, I would credit that to really sparking my interest in sailing and really understanding how a boat maneuvers and reacts to wind. They react. They're just like the shape of the hulls and everything are just like a real boat, just at a smaller scale, and they're really a lot of fun. Now, like I mentioned, my boat was not a racing boat by any means, but it was just a fun boat to kind of, have in a pond. So anyway, I'm excited to hear about it.
What are we drinking?
Good. Guess what we're drinking, Molly? We're drinking some Mount Gay. Now, I got to tell you, sometimes my job is really tough, but this isn't one of them. This is one of those times. So the folks from Mount Gay not only sponsoring us for the next few episodes, but we have a signature cocktail for each episode. So, gosh, and this first one may not be too much of a surprise, but the next ones after this, I think, are going to be pretty darn tasty, and I can't wait to try them. So, one of the reasons why I really do love my job is when a sponsor has something for us to share, they send me samples. So, this is Mount Gay's Black Barrel Rum. Mm-hmm. And we are going to make a Black and Stormy. You might recognize the name. So, not only did they do that, but they sent me, here we go. This is an ice tray. And it makes these ginormous blocks of ice. So, nice. In case you don't know what's in a Black and Stormy, and I don't even think 2 ice cubes are going to fit in this glass. I'm going to try it.
I think you're only supposed to put 1 shot in there, Sharp. I've watched you make drinks before. And
no, this is 2 ounces, and I just laughed. I'm like,
2 ounces that's actually bigger than a shot, isn't it? I think that's a shot and a half.
But who's measuring?
Who's measuring?
Hold on. That's nice. See, that's not that much.
That is a sailor's ounce if ever I've seen one.
They're big ice cubes. That's not that.
Oh, yeah. Blame it on ice cubes.
Unfortunately, we don't have a ginger beer sponsor, so I'm just drinking ginger beer.
All right. Well.
So take that.
Yeah. You got to get someone to work on that, right?
Exactly. So anyway, cheers.
Cheers. I invented a little drink tonight myself. How's that? How's your Black and Stormy there? Strong.
It's smooth. It's really good. Wow, it's fantastic. Actually, it's actually really good.
I have a little version of the what it originally call it before was the light and shifty. So wow. I have a Mount Gay and ginger ale, and I've got some. I threw in some pineapple juice just for good measure, just to make it a little fruitier. And nice. So anyway, cheers.
Cheers to you. And speaking of our guests, let's bring them on.
Let's bring on our guests and talk about RC sailing.
All right. If I can find them. Where did they go? There they are.
So we have Ernest Freeland and Ridgely Mackenzie tonight. Hi, Ridgely.
Hey, how's it going, Molly?
Hey, thanks for joining us.
Hold on. Ernest, you're coming for you. Hold on.
Ernest looking at the countdown about now.
Here he goes. Dun, dun, dun.
There he is. How are you? Ernest. Welcome. Thanks for joining us for happy hour. What are you drinking over there, Ridgely?
Right now I'm just actually having some fine H2O after a long day of work, but
it's respectful.
Light and shifty is probably one of my most favorite drinks.
I like the name. It's funny. I've never heard anyone call it that before. How is that even possible? What are you drinking over there, Ernest?
I've got a Mount Gay and Coke. So
Nice.
All right.
Stick
Cheers.
with the
Cheers,
theme.
guys.
Cheers to everybody.
cheers.
Hey, Molly, cheers. I'm gonna have to tip yours there, Ridgely, up.
Yeah.
And like the Brady Bunch thing.
Yeah.
You and I are gonna have a hard time.
So, Sharp, are you going to stick with us, or are you going to hang out in the green room?
I'm gonna hang out in the green room and try and field some questions here. We've got a nice crowd already here.
We have a nice crowd.
But I'll pipe in with any questions of my own or comments. We've got plenty of pictures here that Ernest provided, so I'm going to be trying to pop those up every now and then as well. So
Okay.
I'll talk to you guys here when it comes time for last call.
Okay, sounds great. I have a question I'm going to start with you, Ernest.
All right.
And ask you, let's just start at the beginning. How'd you get into RC sailing?
Oh, man, I've been sailing RC boats now for, I think, 30 years or so.
Wow.
Started doing it as a kid and met one of my best friends through it and was a big boat sailor, dinghy sailor, did the SSA thing and AYC Wednesday nights. And the next progression was remote control toys and sailing. And it's just grown there now. And I personally own 3 boats from 3 different classes. And I've traveled all the way to San Diego to race. As far north as Vermont, as far south as Florida, Tulsa. So I actually travel with the boats. We fly with them. A lot of fun. Really met a lot of great people through RC sailing. It's just really a microcosm of big boat sailing on a smaller scale.
Great. Well, I spoke with Dave Branning at the American Model Yachting Association, and he said, "Oh, you have Ernest on. Oh, he's the guy. He can answer all your questions. So you're the right guest on." So anyway, how about you, Ridgely? I know you're a little bit newer at it, but why don't you tell us how you've gotten into it? And you said you went way into it this year, so I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, so we had a good group of friends get the DF65s and kind of got peer pressured in over the past year to get into this. And this past winter, I just found myself buying my first boat, and then next thing you know, I had a DF65, then a DF95. During the quarantine was a lot of fun to play with the boats, spending a lot of time doing that. So I've really only been into the model sailing for maybe 3-4 months tops, but got really into it, got into the idea of making the sails for them, the tuning of the boats. So just really getting out there and sailing with some friends and sharing some laughs. That's what it was about for us.
Cool. So the one thing that I have always noticed about RC sailing, never having done it myself, that it's hard not to be intrigued by it because those who do it are, well, yeah, they're kind of giddy with excitement about it. But the one thing I have noticed whenever we have RC sailors send us pictures in the magazine, it is nearly impossible to show scale of the boat unless there's a picture, with someone next to the boat. So if you could just tell us about your boat or boats and what the dimensions are, how tall they are, how wide they are, how much they weigh, just to give an idea. And we'll start with you, Ridgely, because you already mentioned your boats, and then we'll go to Ernest.
Yeah, so the DF65 is 65 millimeters long, or 65 centimeters long. My apologies there. And the 95 is 95 centimeters long. Which is the 95 handles a little bit better in the water. Not sure the mast heights on either of the boats, honestly. I'm a terrible owner when it comes to that. I don't have all the details to share, but it's all readily available on their websites. But honestly, the 65 versus the 95, it's kind of night and day. The 95 just handles more like a real boat. It's kind of like sailing a keelboat against a laser. So that's what I found.
Yeah, cool. That kind of picture really helps you understand scale a lot. That and seeing a boat next to you, as you're standing up or something like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. The 95 is a little bit shorter than I am. So altogether on the stand, it's probably about 4.5, 5 feet. The 65 is probably 8 inches or 6 inches shorter sitting on the stand.
Yeah.
So,
how much do they weigh, do you think? I mean, would it be hard for a woman with not much upper body strength to lift?
Not either of these boats. The keel, I believe, is, I want to say it's 1850 grams, 1,850 grams. So it's really not that heavy. The whole boat is a plastic shell, so it's pretty light to pick up.
Okay.
Just tops a few pounds.
Great. How about you, Ernest? Can you tell us a little bit about the dimensions of your boats, the height, the weight, that kind of thing, just to give you an idea of scale?
Yeah, sure. So one of the first pictures that Chard was showing was a EC 12 meter. He's got a Star 45 up right now. So the EC 12 meters are over there on your right, and they are actually based off the tank test model from the Heritage 12 meter that was designed for the Cup. That one has a mast about 65 inches tall and weighs probably about 22 to 25 pounds. And the water line is about 53 inches, if I'm not mistaken. So a really cool thing about these is the original tank test model for the 12 meter that's up there is up in the St. Petersburg Yacht Club, hanging above their bar, where I'm sure they probably serve Mount Gay as well. The other boat that Chard was showing is actually a scaled down version of a Star 45. So it's called a Star 45. It's 45 inches long. Again, it has about a 60-inch mast, and it's a scale replica of the big Starboat. So that's a real popular home build model. They're built in fiberglass as well, but also a lot of people like to scratch build those with forms just like you would a big boat. And then the other boat that I sail is a 914, and that is 914 millimeters long. It weighs 6.5 pounds and has a total height of 60 inches and I think about 550 inches of sail area. And then one of the other ones that I don't really own one yet, but it's on the list, I do sail it, is a J-boat, and it's a 1/12 scale model of the J class, and they're 8 to 10 feet long typically. They weigh over 100 pounds, and they have 10-foot tall rigs.
Wow.
And they take 2 people to launch, and it's really cool. So any boat that's been designed as a J class boat is legal in that class. And they're magnificent to see sailing. They're really impressive.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's cool. So, and you don't have to give us any particulars, but for anyone who might be watching who's intrigued by RC sailing and might want to get into it, sort of, what's the price range that you can get into this sport for? No point on up.
I mean, the lowest number I think is the 250 for the DF65 is probably the bottom end to get into the RC sailing. With that, you're pretty much, it's a plug and play setup.
Yep. From there all the way up to, $8,000 for a fully built J boat. And then, Ridgely as a sailmaker probably loves this. We have different suits of sails for different wind conditions. So a lot of sailors will show up with a different quiver, so to speak, based on the wind conditions. And that can add, the sails can be a couple $100 to $300 or $400 for a set. And then most people have rigs that they go on. So they have a totally different boom and mast configuration they move from the boat. So that can add to the cost. But yeah, $250 to, $8,000.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So, I know there's a variety of ways you can compete. You can compete on the club level. You can do it just for fun. You can compete against your buddy, a little of both. And how do you guys compete? I'll start with you, Ridgely, since you're newer to it. What's your level of competition?
So our level of competition is very low as of recent. It's really about 3 to about people that will get out on the water on any given weekend with us, and we just throw some buoys in the water that good friend Tyler has tied some weights to and came up with a crafty system to toss saw some marks in the water without having to get actually out on the water to do so. So we just really shoot the breeze and have some fun. Nothing serious, but definitely talking about trying to travel and do some more of the national level stuff just to see where we stand.
Great. Ernest, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, like Ridgway, a lot of local sailing that's really casual off a friend's dock, or we used to sail off the Chart House in Annapolis on Sundays for our frostbiting. And so from casual racing to I have traveled for national championships. I've gone to San Diego Yacht Club to race there a couple times. I've gone up to Vermont to race regional events and invitationals as well as nationals. And packing up the boat on the plane and sending it out there. I've even got friends that have built crates, and they air freight their boats ahead, and they race. And I've even had some other friends that have traveled internationally to race. So I like to race them just like I do a big boat. And you're standing there sometimes along the shoulder to shoulder with other world champions from big boat classes. I know George Szabo is a big RC sailor and a former world champion of multiple classes, and the list goes on.
So, Ernest, you and I discussed this a little on the phone, and I loved your answer. And so, how is this like big boat sailing?
It's really a microcosm. It's just a smaller subset of big boat sailing. It's all the same racing rules. We're actually have an appendix in the U.S. sailing rules and the international yacht racing rules. I think it's appendix E or F, if I'm not mistaken. So it's all pretty much the same rules. It's a 4-boat circle versus a 2-boat circle, and everything applies. Same countdowns. There's some difference about how when you can touch your boat and stuff like that. But the biggest thing that I think about this is when you're out on the race course and you foul somebody, you kind of sail off in different directions. Well, when you foul somebody, when you're racing an RC boat, you're still shoulder to shoulder with them. And sometimes those conversations and banter continue a little bit longer than they should. And there's definitely some interesting discussions. But yeah, it's really like big boat sailing. It does happen faster. The speeds are faster than what you're used to in big boat racing. And there is the perception difference too. Some people have better eyes than others, and you think you've got that tight cross, and maybe you don't. But yeah, it's super similar.
And just out of curiosity, what kind of racing do you do? What kind of real boat racing do you do?
I've been real into the Etchels for a number of years now, and sailing in Annapolis, and done some worlds, and of course. Etchel Sailor is complete without doing Jaguar Cup in Miami. Probably some of the best sailing around. But I've done offshore stuff, Newport, Bermuda, Annapolis, Newport. So a lot of fun stuff like that.
Good. Well, that ties into another question I'm going to ask. But first, I'd like to ask Ridgely, for you, how is this like big boat sailing? And maybe give us a little idea of the company of the big boat sailing that you were having.
I think this is a lot like big boat sailing. Just you get a different perspective. Standing back, you get that bird's eye view that kind of maybe helps you learn some tactics and positioning on course. When it comes down to it, it's about the camaraderie to me. Is when you get together with a group of friends and you can sit there and compare your tuning. And I mean, Ernest probably knows since he's gone through much bigger boats and bigger classes and done more. The tuning is so critical. Just some finer adjustments. Even when it comes to the sails, it's amazing what little differences happen or what you change on the sails, because I can't tell you how many sails I've actually made for my boats in the past 4 months. But I do have a shelf that is loaded with probably 20, 30, maybe 40 sails that I've made in 3 or 4 months. But each of them performs differently, and that's relates directly to big boat sailing. I mean, different sail shapes perform differently, and that's one of the biggest takeaways that I have.
Do you feel like you have learned something from RC sailing that informs your big boat sailing as well?
Maybe a tactical standpoint, just the bird's eye view, going back to that again, is huge. Just being able to understand how a boat, when you tack into a different shift and the other boats on the other side of the course, what actually is going to happen there. Different positioning, different viewpoints. It's interesting to see, and then take it out onto the water and going to be like, oh, this is where I was standing with my RC boat. I know what's going to happen here.
He made an interesting comment in the beginning about how he didn't really understand sailing as much until he did it with his RC boat. And we've seen a lot of sailing schools use RC sailboats to teach basic sailing principles, to teach race course management, and even to teach match racing and team racing. They'll put it in a swimming pool and maybe put the kids up on a balcony so they can look down, exactly like Ridgely said. I always think the best venues are where we can look down into the boats, kind of be higher to see what's going on, because you can see the whole course and how it's playing out with a lot easier viewpoint than we're used to in a big boat sitting at water level.
That, and to add to that, the pressure, being able to see the pressure on either side of the course, it's unbelievable. And the differences that you can, by taking the left side, if you see a puff on the left side, get to that left side, you're going to go so much faster than the boats on the right. And being able to see that is pretty cool.
It teaches you to keep your head out of the boat a lot more. The RC sailing trick is you got to keep the boat going and moving, but then like Ridgely just said, you have to be looking up the course and looking at what's going on to make sure, because you miss that shift and the results can show off pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the rules. Where does one find the rules for RC sailing?
Their appendix, or maybe Ridgely knows. It's E or F. I should know off the top of my head.
I think some of it varies per class, but for the rules, I know class rules. With the DF classes, I've probably broken every single class rule there is sails. So I've gotten a little more tight on making my sails, so because my friends started to get mad at me. So I know you can find class rules online very easily. There's for the Dragon Force 95 or the Dragonflight 95, they actually have I don't know who did it, but they made an iBook that you can download on your iPhone that does tuning, rules, everything you need to know about your boat. That I keep pretty handy. It's just on my phone, so it's easy to access whenever I have a question.
I'm going to ask Ernest this question because our conversation on the phone before this prompted it. Who participates in RC sailing?
Everybody participates in RC sailing, from spouses to world champions. It was a number of years ago, but like I said earlier, we sailed at the Chart House, and we would get 20 to 30 people on a Sunday for frostbiting. And I looked down the line and I was like, wow. There was Gary Hutchinson, Chris Larson, Tom Weaver, Rick Depp, Tucker Thompson, Dave Scott, Andrew Scott. And it was in the highlight of the America True campaign and all that stuff going on. And there was a lot of other sailmakers there. And I'm like, wow, we have all this talent, all this America's Cup Whitbread world champion sailors, and we're all playing on toy boats. And some of those guys aren't as active as they used to be, but they're definitely around, and they've probably got some of those 914s hanging on their mantles.
Do you have anything to add to that, Ridgely?
I mean, you can see on any given day if there's a kind of a scheduled thing. I know I would go down to in the wintertime, AYC did a winter series, and you go down there and you could have as young as a 6-year-old boy there to a world champion there. You have no idea who's going to show up. So the participation is fast and it's very fun. It makes it competitive and interesting.
Now, the only woman I know around who has an RC boat here is Liz Filter, who's the Commodore VYC, and I knew that only because I saw her on Facebook, and I asked her if she was new to it. She said, "Oh, no, we brought those out of the garage and got back into it."
I think Stan Grosvenor for that list too. I don't know if she's still sailing, but I'm pretty sure she's got one.
Yeah. But I was just wondering. Oh, I'm muted here. I was just wondering if there are any women in it, and but I did see some pictures of kids doing it too. So it's nice to know there's a full range of ages. And how about hearing about all these excellent sailors that might be intimidating to someone who's just a casual sailor? Are there more casual sailors involved too, or is it mostly people who are high level sailing, or is that just happens to be who shows up sometimes at AYC?
I think it's kind of a wide range. I mean, you have your serious sailors, and then you have your very casual sailors that, I mean, I know my father used to be big into RC sailing when I was younger, and he was a serious sailor, but towards the end of his career, he couldn't sail, so he was handicapped. And he would spend a lot of time sailing his RC boat. So I think, wide range of competition there.
Yeah, absolutely. There's all ages, all skill levels. I think the neat thing about the RC boat is it kind of equalizes the playing field in the sense that, you don't have to be the most physically fit person. And I find it to be a really welcoming group. You show up at a regatta and, the last hot shots are there to help you tune your boat and get you up to speed and giving away their secrets. Because it can really just come down to, a twitch of a thumb that can be the difference between, winning and losing or missing that final shift or misjudging the ley line. So, like Richard was saying, helping people tune and stuff like that, there's always help. Just like you see in a one design class. There's people who bring up to speed.
Ernest, we have some strange feedback happening.
I don't get from Star Wars right now, but I have a question. But Ernest, I am going to ask you if you've got a phone near your computer or anything like that, just move it away. I think we're getting a little bit of feedback from that. But I was curious. So, because you guys were talking about, these really, professional, if not just high intensity sailors. Do you have guys that are racing with you that don't even step foot on a normal boat, that just are damn good at racing their radio controlled boat? But I guess does the skill automatically transfer over to the radio controlled, or could you possibly never step foot on a boat and do fantastic?
I definitely know some people who don't really sail big boats that are really good RC sailors. Some people pick it up really fast and the concepts transfer, and there are a lot of them out there that have just sailing through the RC sailboat.
So, do you think maybe we should have Ernest call your phone, Sharb?
Yeah, I don't have a phone near me, Sharb. I don't have anything in this room, actually.
Oh, now we don't hear you, Sharb.
That's because I muted myself. It's okay.
There you
go. Ernest, if you could grab a phone and then mute your computer and call my number, and we'll get you back on.
Okay.
Thanks.
In the meantime, Richley, I have a question for you, and I'll ask Ernest when he's once we have him back up audio-wise. But let's talk about social distancing. Part of the reason why this topic came up to do a show on RC sailing is that it just kind of seemed like an ideal time for it during social distancing. So I want to know how you and your fellow RC sailors are dealing with that and how that's worked.
Well, for us, it's been pretty simple. I mean, we only have a small group of us here in Annapolis, so that makes it simple to start. But you show up at a dock and you kind of mark out your territory. You have a little 6 feet circle, put your mask or your buff on, and you're good to go. It's really social distancing and remote control sailing is they go together pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Now, I even saw in the pictures from last year, I mean, of course, there are times when people are on the dock, it looks like a little bit of a party, but you could see how it would work without you guys being on top of each other, you know, that
Yeah.
you can make that happen. It's not like sitting on the rail together.
Yeah, exactly. It's you can spread yourself out a lot easier. You have the whole dock space, or if you're on a lake, you have the land space just to kind of walk and separate.
How about you, Ernest? Oh, we don't quite have him. We don't quite have his audio yet. Sharp, you might be muted. That might be our problem.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
I can. Yes.
Okay.
Better.
About social distancing?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think what originally you were saying, we're in the process of planning a race week here in Annapolis for 4 different classes, and it's something we're definitely looking at of using a mask. I know a lot of clubs recreationally are sailing, with lawn chairs 6 feet apart. They're not allowing skippers to walk the shoreline to keep everyone apart, which I think is a great idea. So there's that, but I also know that the class isn't AMYA, the major sanctioning group, has not allowed sailing right now with sanctioned regattas until the 31st of August at the earliest.
So, there we go. Is there a youth class for RC sailing or racing? Question by Dan Thompson. Thank you, Dan. Youth class?
I don't know the answer to that. Ernest, do you?
We've had some classes that have done a youth class where they've scored for younger kids under the age of 18. It's kind of done by regatta host or by class. I know that there's a gentleman, a young man, I'm drawing a blank on his name, but he was out Largemont. He was under the age of 18, Kevin, and he was a really good sailor, and I think he won the Nationals a couple times and went on to be a really successful big boat sailor, but his intro was RC sailing.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned the American Model Yachting Association. Are you a member of that? I know that and that's kind of the organization for this sport, right? Are you guys members of it or of other clubs?
I need to be, but I am not.
Yeah, I'm a member, so they do a lot to support the class. They offer insurance to clubs for the ponds that we sail on, so that's a real concern for when we show up places to sail is the insurance aspect of it. So they have pond insurance that protects the owners, and then they are the organizing authority. They represent us at the U.S. sailing level and the International Yacht Racing Union level as well. A lot of another sailing association to belong to.
Well, good. They're easy to find online. If you just search Model Yachting Association, it pops right up, the American Model Yachting Association. And I think you said there were 21 or 22 classes of these boats that are sailed around the country. Does that sound right to you, Ernest? Is my memory correct on that?
I actually just counted before we got on, and I think there's 32.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm only off by 10. All right. Well, good. We're getting close to last call here, but I want to ask you both, and feel free, Sharp, and if there's another question that you want to pop up there, but I want to ask both of you if someone were interested. I'll ask Ridgely first because you're new to it. If someone were interested in getting into RC sailing, what would you recommend they do? Where do they show up to, or who should they contact?
Right now, I mean, we have a Facebook group. I believe it's Annapolis Model Yacht Sailing or something. I can't quite remember it, quite honestly. But I know AYC was doing a Sunday series every other Sunday for a while. That's a good place to show up and just meet everybody that's involved with that. Mm-hmm. Quite honestly, I don't know the best way to get involved in it. I would say probably join the American Model Yacht Association and reach out to the class leaders and which class that you joined or which class you have a boat for.
Yeah. Okay. How about you, Ernest? What would be your advice to someone who'd like to give RC sailing a try?
My dad gave me some really good advice a long time ago. He said, Ernest, if they're racing bathtubs and that's what they're sailing, you race bathtubs. You want to find the biggest, class in your area, and that's what you want to sail. So certain classes are established different places all over the country, and definitely go into that American Model Yacht Association, so it's amya.org, and then they have a club finder by state, so you can go to your state and then see where the clubs are and what classes are sailing. And then Facebook is a really great resource. There's the AMYA group on Facebook. Hop in there and you can find where the popular classes are around the country.
Now, I know you said that these boats move quickly, these races happen quickly, but typically if you go out, if you have a day of RC sailing, there's a competition. You're not just goofing around, you're actually having a race. Are we talking 2 hours of your day? Are we talking about 5 hours of your day? Is this a ridiculous question? I'm just curious sort of how much of a time commitment it can be when you get into it.
I think Ernest is probably better suited to answer that since I've never done an official regatta with these.
So, I mean, casual sailing, it's usually, like Ridgely was saying, a Sunday at a yacht club or where at the pond is usually a couple hours. A national championship regatta or a regional regatta would be, a full day. You usually start, you have a NOR that comes out with SIs, and skippers meetings usually at 9. First race is at 9:30, and we sail to about 3:30 or 4. A typical format, depending on how many fleets you're sailing to score, would be you sail 3 or 4 races, and then we usually take a break. And then sail 3 or 4 races and take a break. So it depends. If it's a larger fleet of 45 boats, it's broken up into heats, and then you have some stuff called promotion relegation for bigger fleets and bigger classes. It goes all day, 2 or 3 days for the regatta. You may or may not have to throw out, just like the real thing.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, I was wondering about that because sometimes I think that people do things thinking they're going to be able to do it for an hour, and not expecting it to take all day, or by the same token, they're like, now what, So just I think it's good to sort of set an expectation of,
I will say
when you're competing. Yeah.
I will say
How long do you do it for when you're out there just goofing around, Ridgely?
We always set out to say we're only going for an hour or two, and then next thing you know, you're starting to run out of batteries and looking for a way to get the boat back in. So we've been out there for, most times it's probably about 3 or 4 hours we go out. It always starts off with the talk of, just 1 hour model boat sailing, but you get sucked into it and have too much fun, start comparing, lining the boats up. It's a lot of fun.
Ernest, I'm sorry, go right ahead. You go first.
Molly, I was just going to say, we've had a few people comment that the Dragonflight 95s are going to be a part of the nude regattas this year. I didn't know if these guys wanted to comment on that.
I was not aware of that.
Oh.
That's pretty cool.
This is news to me.
I thought that was pretty cool. That's why I mentioned it.
Well, let's start spreading rumors. We think that might happen.
Yeah. I know they've been doing that at some of the nude regattas across the country. I know St. Pete Nude, where they sail them in their pool there. They've been doing that. That's pretty cool to see. You get a bunch of sailors that are hanging out at the party.
Yeah.
Will be interesting to see what happens with that this year. But
the only I see that the San Diego Nude has got the DF95 as a class, but I think that's really neat. I think that's a lot of fun. We don't have, unfortunately, Dan's about the only guy we got a good question from, and we've got like a ridiculous amount of comments. Just everybody seems to be into this, and they seem to know.
Why don't you come join us?
All right, I'll join in. You must see my face. I know.
I know. I so missed you. But I just thought. Do you guys have any final comments you like to make before we do our final cheers and sign off?
I would say, just walk down to your local pond once you find where they're sailing, and I think before you know it, you'll have a transmitter in your hand, and you'll be able to experience RC sailing, and then you'll get the bug like the rest of us. Ridgely out there running all those 40 sets of sails and doing the things to just having a good time. I've got lifelong friendships from RC do with big boat sailing. Travel with people, and it's really special, and encourage everyone to give it a try, and check out your local RC club.
Well, I can tell you because I get the pictures of people on the docks that, well, they all kind of look like giddy kids playing with their toy boats. I think there's something that when you said toy boat, I thought that's it. You know, everybody needs a little play in their lives. Plus, it involves some strategy and some skill, which makes it appealing to sailors. So that's great. Do you have anything to add, Ridgely?
Not so much, just except for model boat sailing. It's a ton of fun, and everybody should give it a try at least once and see if you like it. I'm sure you will. So.
Well, you guys have been really great guests. You've given a lot of information. I feel like I understand RC sailing a lot better than I did before. And before I say cheers to you, I put on this Mount Gay hat.
That's
a
a
little bit
vintage.
older. It's a little salty around the edges here. From Key West. Don't cry.
All right. Oh,
And
this was cool.
I just want to say cheers. Happy Friday to you guys.
There we go. Cha-ching.
Love these happy hours, and we love having guests like you. And thank you to everybody who's watching us online. And you keep coming back, and we really appreciate that. We see some of the same names coming back every week, and then some people we haven't met before. So thanks for showing up, and we will see you next Friday, and we're going to talk about how to be a great bow person,
which is going to be pretty darn cool, actually. Because
anyway, I'm gonna let Sharb wrap this up, and I'm gonna say goodnight to you guys, and thanks again.
I'm gonna throw you guys into the green room like I always do, but always stick around because there's
there's a party in the green room.
Right. Sorry, you're gonna miss out on the party, but. So let me just take care of some business. But thank you both, Ridgely and Ernest, for joining us today. This was awesome, and hopefully we've sparked some interest in some newcomers, and they'll get out there and join you guys out there on the water. So let me take care of a couple of things. Say goodbye to you guys.
Bye.
First of all, again, thanks for joining us. I want to thank Dan Thompson because Dan. You are the only person that asked a question that we used. So, Dan, guess what you win? Bilge cleaner. Yeah. There you go. Dan, I'm gonna instant message you and get your shipping address, and we'll send that to you. Compliments of Boat Life, who've been nice enough to sponsor this episode. Also, a big special thanks to Mount Gay for sponsoring this episode and the upcoming ones, and also to Dragon Sailing because without the support of our advertisers, we can't do this. We can't do this at all. We're 100% advertiser supported, and it's an interesting time these days. It's difficult to be a free magazine. When you can't, when businesses close because of some kind of virus. What's up with that? But luckily, we're able to do things like this online. We're able to bring you a digital issue that you can find on SpinSheet.com. We're able to bring you extra stuff that's on our website on SpinSheet.com. So check all that out. But if you're wondering what can we do to just make sure we support SpinSheet and the work that we do, it really is check out the digital issue. And it's sharing this through social media, obviously, and that sort of stuff. But go up to somebody that you know is advertising with us and say, you know what? I read that magazine. I read them online. And these guys are doing great work, if I do say so myself. And just do that for us. It's really important. With so many different channels people have to advertise their products, we'd love to know that the dollars that they invest with us are working for them. So please go out and do that for us. We really appreciate it. Tune in next week at 5 o'clock on Friday, and we'll have another SpinSheet happy hour with Mount Gay, and we'll mix up another signature cocktail for you. Until then, get out on the water, be safe, be healthy, and we'll see you then. Thanks. Don't miss another SpinSheet video. Subscribe to our channel today.